Friday, and welcome to this week's edition of Invisible Walls. I'm Shane Satterfield, editor-in-chief of the site. Totally sorry I missed everyone last week. Things are crazy around here, so unfortunately I could not make the recording. But Marcus did fill in for me and once again call me Shane Slatterfield.
I've been calling you that for 5 years.
Yeah, I've known Marcus for 5 years and he still adds an L to my last name, but that's okay. I can deal with it. And as you might have guessed, Marcus is sitting in on the show today, Mr. Grumpy McGrump.
Grumpy McXbot Grump, apparently. I'm the new you. I am an Xbot.
We've traded places for a month. I'm sure next month it'll go right back the other way. Patrick Morales is on the show today.
Good to be here.
And the quiet storm, Justin Spears, sitting in on the show.
Engineering.
I always pause in everything he says.
And Brooks Huber is the last member of the panel today.
Hello, everyone.
Damn. Talk about a graveyard.
Dirty grub, all over this place. I got no respect for the dead.
All right, the first thing we're going to talk about today is the Spike Video Game Awards. The awards, just so you guys know, are on Sunday night at 9 p.m., no matter whether you're on the East or West Coast. Tons of huge premieres on the show, including God of War 3, the first downloadable content for Grand Theft Auto 4, Brutal Legend, Fight Night Round 4. The list goes on and on. Uncharted 2, there's going to be about 11 world premieres in the show. You guys definitely want to check them out. They're going to be peppered evenly throughout the show, so you guys will definitely want to stick around and make sure you guys don't miss anything. Also, tonight, on Friday night, on Spike, we're doing a big VGA premiere show. And Grumpy, you and I are actually sitting in on that VGA premiere show.
We are, but they wouldn't let us sit together. We had to
No.
record separate segments because I think we would have hit each other with our opinions.
With our chainsaw bayonets.
Yes, indeed. We started talking about the NPD sales report, Microsoft versus Xbox, and it just got all messy.
It is an interesting show, though, because we do run through all the nominees on the show and kind of talk about why they were nominated, which also brings me to the topic of the VGAs in general. I know with people in our audience and a lot of the hardcore otaku, they're not big fans of the VGAs. A lot of people think that they're rigged or whatever. There's all kinds of stupid rumors that swirl around. The truth of the matter is the show is really on solid footing now. The people who vote and select the winners are the editors-in-chiefs or senior editors from pretty much every respectable gaming mag and website in the United States and abroad. So, if you can't believe in these guys, then you can't believe reviews. So the awards, I think, have been improved a lot over the last couple years. The last year was the first year where they took the vote out of the hands of the users. And no disrespect to you guys, but when we give the vote to you guys, Madden ends up being Game of the Year. So we're trying to avoid that. We've created the editorial committee to select all the nominees and winners. I think you guys will be pretty impressed with who takes home a lot of the awards at the show. So be sure to check it out. The show's on Sunday at 9 p.m. VGA premiere show tonight, Friday night at midnight. Be sure to check it out.
Where's our money?
I don't know. I didn't rob you.
All right, now we're going to talk about Grand Theft Auto 4 for the PC. Obviously, we loved the console versions of the game, gave it a really nice score. PC version's been in-house for a little bit now. You guys have all had a chance to play it. I have not. So, Marcus, what are your initial thoughts on the game?
If you've got an Xbox or a PS3 as well as a PC, play the console version. You can't argue with the fact that it's still a great game. It's just a sloppy port, in my opinion. We've been playing it on a pretty steady rig, not, super spec'd out, but we've been playing it on one that can handle, for example, the Wrath of the Lich King turned up on, looking
blast.
really good. And yeah, we've ended up with, medium resolution, high textures, minimal draw distance, and we've had some problems with regards to severe frame rate. Well, you saw some of the videos.
Yeah, I did see some of the videos.
What else, Brooks?
We also ran a Left 4 Dead on that machine, the demo.
That's right.
Not too long ago, and I thought that looked great. Because moments after that, we got the retail in for the 360, so I kind of got to see a comparison between our PC and the 360. And I thought it looked shades better on the PC.
Yeah, not to mention Crysis Warhead, which had an optimized version of the original Crysis engine, and it looked pretty good.
So we're not trying to dog our machine. The machine,
No, the
machine's
machine
not that
is
bad.
good, and
Yeah.
honestly, given the auto detect thing, I think that's the problem. The auto detect isn't working properly. At the end of the day, it's still GTA 4, and it's still one of the best games of the year. It's just unfortunate that these frame rate problems, in my opinion, they do take away from the game experience because you're in the middle of a great big chase, and you're barreling down a street. You have to make a turn to catch up with somebody, and all of a sudden it starts to jag, and the next thing you know, your car's wrapped around a lamppost and blown up, and you have to retry the mission.
Now, my question is the controls. Now, obviously, the shooting probably works better on the PC because you have the mouse and keyboard. What about the driving? The driving was kind of something you had to get used to even on the console versions. Patrick, how does it work with a mouse and keyboard?
Well, it's serviceable, but again, it's suboptimal to if you had an Xbox 360 controller.
Now you can plug a 360 controller in, right?
And you
Yes.
can, yeah.
you
So
can.
that fixes one of the big problems with it.
But are the controls as good on the PC using the 360 controller as they are as if you just use a 360 controller?
The
on
lockdown, I
360?
guess, would be the
Yeah.
issue you could solve with the
I think at the end of the day, it'd probably boil down more on preference, but
Yeah.
at least it does give you the option to use a 360 controller if you are more used to that.
I think the 360 controller makes combat better, but I think the driving is still a little bit off. It's not as the driving doesn't feel as good as it does or as intuitive as it does on the console version. Anybody who watches the footage can see that you can't really apply the brakes properly. There's a little bit of delay. You end up careering off the road, even in some of the slowest cars.
Yeah. To be fair, though, the driving was always kind of icy, even on the console versions.
Right, it took a while to get
But it's
used
not
to.
this,
Yeah.
not this icy. I mean, this is again having played the 360 version for a long time, used to controls there. They're just a little bit off, and the camera is also a little a little less flexible, perhaps, than the console versions.
Yeah.
Now, do you think they've rebalanced the game at all? Because if you're playing the game with a mouse and keyboard, obviously it's a lot easier to shoot now. Like Justin, like you said, they had the lock on for the console versions.
Yeah, sometimes in the console you might lock onto a guy that maybe you don't want to shoot, so...
Have they added more enemies because it's probably easier to shoot them now with the mouse, or has it all been pretty much?
It seemed, and please feel free to jump in. It seemed
Yeah.
identical to the console version. It's just the execution on the console version felt way more comfortable.
Yeah.
See, what I was trying to do, I didn't really play any missions. I just wanted to look at the city and see if I could tell any differences. The skyscrapes, like the visibility, how far you could see. Arguably, it looks a lot better on the PC if you do have everything turned up. It looks beautiful. But like Marcus was saying, as soon as you start moving, as soon as you start driving, that's when the frame rate starts chugging along a little bit. I noticed when it was raining and the ground was all slick, that's when it was having some big issues.
Yeah.
That's why I'm just not a fan of PC gaming in general.
Well, I mean, that's the problem. There are
It's
certain,
always, you're sitting there, you're tweaking, does it work with my car? Do I have enough RAM?
there's certain games that work well on PCs, and there are certain games that don't. And I also think that the optimization for this has been a bit off because we went with the automatically detected settings that the game actually does with regards to the PC, and the settings weren't adequate. They weren't right. That's where we had the frame rate issues. It wasn't from us going in and ramping everything up to high, and all of a sudden it's a slideshow.
So what we got was the game looking at our system and saying, this is how you should set it.
Yes, and it did that, and then we're down to 7 to 10 frames a second in some places. Some places even more. There'll be a
just flat
90-second
out stopped.
pause. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just stopped.
And it didn't even trade a noticeable step up in graphical detail, it being on PC hardware as opposed to console. It still looked the same, if maybe a little worse, actually.
And we're actually, it should be said, we're getting a new PC in, and we will be doing running GTA fully whacked out with all the settings up, and we'll actually be doing a side-by-side comparison so people can see. I'm fully expecting that version of GTA to probably turn around and pull everything, and all of a sudden be better than the console version because it's going to be more fluid. It's going to look frigging awesome. But if you've got a killer rig, great. But if you don't have a killer rig and you have a PS3 or a 360, just go out and get GTA if you already haven't. And if you already haven't, where the have you been for the last 12 months?
So this is the American dream.
All right, next we're going to talk about the Resident Evil 5 demo. Now, technically, we're not supposed to be playing this because it was only released in Japan, which makes no sense whatsoever.
So let's talk about the Biohazard 5 demo.
Right? And I'm not a person to condone piracy, but it's not like we're taking money out of Capcom's pocket here. But you basically can play this on your US system. All you have to do is get the files, burn them to a CD, stick it in your 360, play it as a media disc, go to your demo section, boom, there it is. Obviously, there are some problems with that, like you cannot play like the cinemas without them skipping, I noticed.
Yeah.
And multiplayer.
It takes about 8 hours for it to load the level off a CD.
Yeah, it does
You don't
take a
realize
while.
how awesome DVDs are and how much they can hold until you go back to a CD again and you're like, wow, these things are freaking slow.
Yeah.
But yeah, and actually we have figured out that you can play online, even if you're
nice.
playing the Japanese demo in the US.
Great.
Although I was not brave enough to do it, I was scared to connect my console to Xbox Live and play it. But someone else here was brave enough.
Risk the wrath of the banhammer.
They did, and apparently it worked. But what are our overall impressions? Now, we played this game, 8 times in the last 2 years at different events or whatever? This is the first time we really had a chance to kind of sit in our own living rooms on our couch and really enjoy it for what it is instead of standing there while 10 people wait behind you. So,
Right.
so what are your impressions? Patrick, what do you think?
Well, I think it's pretty safe to say that it's definitely the game that we've all been, anticipating. I didn't find myself disappointed with it one bit. Although I would have to say I was a little bit peeved that there is still no running while shooting.
It's Resident Evil though. It's never been in the series, and it probably never will be.
That's true, but I mean, think back to when Resident Evil 4 came out, and it was so genre, defining for it to, break into this third-person shooter mold. We've seen that, progress into, Gears of War 2, Dead Space, which took that format and did it pretty well, maybe a little better.
Right.
And just to kind of return back to the same, turn, shoot, stop, reload. It seems a little stiff to me, but I think it was still lots of fun. Capcom definitely
I
showing
agree
its
with that a
chops,
little bit.
so.
One thing you do notice is that you see the enemies kind of like cycling around.
Yeah.
Like they'll run up and they'll get within about 10 feet of you, and then they just kind of stop and hang out there for a while before they like rush in.
They're,
Yeah.
they're
I think that's-
dead. They're out of breath.
Yeah. Technically, they're not breathing, but but I think it's just so it'll account for the way the control scheme is. Because if they really just kept rushing in like the way Left 4 Dead works, it would be a joke.
Yeah.
You got to kill
Oh, you'd
maybe
be dead,
one, but
yeah.
you'd be dead instantly. So it is kind of weird that they're working around the shortcomings of the control scheme.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think maybe even halfway through development, they were like, wait a minute, this is kind of a dinosaur at this point. You notice that they added like the strafe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Trying to
thank
compensate
you.
for it a
And they're
little
trying
bit.
to compensate for it a little bit because we had heard they were going to completely rework the control scheme, and then we get the
Yeah.
Tokyo Game Show where they're supposed to unveil it, and I was like, so we can move and shoot at the same time, and they're like, no.
You can do a side shimmy now.
But how old is Resident Evil? I mean, the first one came out in what
97, I think, yeah.
So we're talking about 11-year-old franchise,
Yeah.
and has it progressed again? I asked the same question about Street Fighter last week.
Well, four was a big kick for it, and then
Four was
maybe
phenomenal.
they're not ready to go up the next level. They're kind of sticking close to 4. Because
they really
before
only
it
made
took
one
them
game with that
It took them
formula.
5 or 6 years, and people are like, "What the hell is with these tank controls?" And they're like, "It's Resident Evil. You'll like it. Just keep playing it." And I mean, the games. I'm one of the rare people that actually like Resident Evil 3. It had some cool stuff in it. I thought it was a rewarding, challenging game.
I've
But-
actually liked almost all the Resident Evil games.
Yeah, I
I'm
mean,
a
it's-
sucker for that franchise.
I didn't like Umbrella Chronicles.
Yeah,
The
I mean, that
on-rails
doesn't, I mean,
reshooter.
like,
What about Gun
I
Survivor?
mean, like the proper Resident Evil, like Code Veronica. I loved all those games.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, granted, it was definitely starting to show its age, and I think they had the right time to change it for Resident Evil 4. But if you look at the history, it's like, how many games did they make with that old style where it was like you're a tank and you spin on an axis?
Yeah.
They made a lot of games with that style before they finally decided to overhaul it, and I think you're probably going to see the same thing here.
And I think it's still good enough. I mean, Resident Evil 4, it was a great, awesome game. It was good on Wii 2, and I think they've moved it forward enough to where they can kind of stick close to that formula, take its strengths. Maybe, as they bring up, you're sitting still, you can't really move, so you have to either make your shots count or else, you're going to get screwed. So.
Well, I mean,
it's
they
a
do
kinda
design the
specific
game
style of
accounting
play.
for the control scheme.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so
Maybe that's
it's-
what happened. They tried to completely revamp the control scheme, and they're like, wait a minute, we'd have to completely rework the AI of all the enemies. Otherwise, it would be so easy if you could move and shoot and aim at the same time.
Yep.
You kind of have to go in out of the gate and create a game with that in mind. Otherwise, you'd end up spending another year and a half developing it, trying to make it work with the new controls.
I think to a lot of people, the leap from Resident Evil 4 to 5 will be analogous to, say, the leap between Metal Gear Solid 3 and 4, where it pretty much retained the same kind of essence, but just more polished, obviously has that next-gen shine on it.
Question
That's a good analogy.
I want to ask is was anybody, did anybody get any actual scares out of playing this game? Because I remember the first Resident Evil game was actually one of the very few games to give me a nightmare.
Oh,
So
yeah, the
playing
dog jumping through the
Well,
window.
the
I did
the
have
birds,
a-
the snake coming, the huge snake coming
had
out.
some close calls with the chainsaw dude.
Yeah,
It's
Yeah.
scary.
You
I
can
mean,
see in
it's-
one of the gameplays,
it's
running
it's more
around.
exciting than scary now.
It's not like you get the cheap thrill, like the dog busting through the window. You're like,
Yeah.
oh my god! It's like, that dude with the big axe is like 5 feet behind you, and you're hauling ass trying to get away. So you can get far enough away to spin around,
And
get your
shoot.
weapon loaded up, and ready to fight. That kind of scary.
Yeah, I mean, in that aspect, Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3 were all about building that suspense.
Right.
With the fixed camera angles, the little scripted
Controlling what
events.
you could see.
Yeah. And as of 4 and 5, it's more about maintaining that high level of tension throughout.
It's more of an
it's an
adrenaline
action.
rush,
It
really.
is. Yeah.
Well, I also don't think the intent of the demo is really to scare you as much as it is to give you an idea of how
Yeah,
it plays.
just drop
So
you
it's
in
just
the
thrown
thick
out
of
There's
the
it.
whole
plenty
thing
of room
because,
to build some atmosphere and set up some.
The franchise has
changed.
changed. I mean, it's changed
Yeah.
from survival horror, zombies, horror being part of the word, and now it's not so much the horror type game. I mean, it's moved into more a very exciting still action adventure.
It was a little bit scary though. Whenever whenever you're inside and you're like looking out the window
Yeah.
and they're doing that big rally, and then the guy with the megaphone sees you through the window and he points at you, and all the people turn and look at you, and they got like the crazy red eyes. Like I was
Yeah.
like, oh.
I was using furniture to board up the doors and the windows, and you're like just hiding in the back of the room, just waiting. And sure enough, the
Here they
furniture
come.
starts
Yeah.
rocking, and they breaking their way.
I mean,
into
it
the
is
room.
scary. It's a
freaky.
different kind of scary, but it is very frantic. Very like my heart was beating pretty hard the whole time I played, especially the first couple of times I played the demo. So.
Yeah, I mean, there's only so many ways that you could have a dog jump through a window.
Right.
So
Eventually, that's going to wear thin. Yeah.
Exactly. So it was good for them to change directions.
As you said, I mean, they've moved from the fixed camera now to more of a free camera behind you. They don't control all the camera angles. So yeah, I mean, there are certain ways you have to move. I just, I lament, the passing of some of that, because actually, it was one of the things that sucked me in. I did like that whole, survival horror aspect.
A lot of those things, though, it's like you're really nostalgic for something. Then you go back, if you actually play that game or experience it, you're like, oh.
I've said it before and I said it again. Nostalgia is only fine until you actually go back and relive
experience it. Yeah.
But I played this demo at E3, and it's obviously a more polished version. But again, it's going to be a great game. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, let's go around the horn here, and let's just see if anybody here, if any other anticipation has been quelled, and maybe you aren't as excited to play the game after playing the demo. Patrick,
Admittedly, I'm a lot more excited for a game now.
you're more excited.
Yeah,
Justin,
No, I'm psyched about the co-op. It's
you're
fun.
more
Yeah.
excited than you were before?
co-op's
Yeah,
awesome.
I think a little bit. I can see playing online the whole way through.
Okay.
Yeah,
Spending-
same
come
here.
on,
I think
bro.
the strategies incorporated with the co-op is awesome, because I'd have one guy hiding in the back of a alleyway, and I'd lure the boss out. And as he was chasing me down the alleyway, that's where my friend was waiting with a gun, and that was fun. I like that co-op and working together.
I'm definitely more excited. I think what I'm more excited about is when I talked to them in Japan at TGS, we did an interview, and they said that it was going to be a good 6 or 8 hours longer than Resident Evil 4.
Nice.
So if you think about how big RE4 was, which by today's action game standards is pretty freaking big, you tack another 6 or 8 hours on top of that, then you start to realize that what we've seen of this game so far is nothing.
Yeah.
And there's so much more to experience, so much more to really see, and I think that's what's really got me excited to play it. So won't be too much longer of a wait.
I knew it from the moment I arrived. There's no reason here. No humanity.
All right, now we're going to talk about the mysterious Metal Gear teaser that surfaced this week. It's hilarious. I think it's the shortest piece of video we've ever published on the GameTrailers.com website.
It's doing huge.
It's all of about 5 seconds, and it's done about 200,000 views. I'm guessing that's about 200,000 people that are really pissed off at
Yeah.
us.
The commercial before the video is actually longer than the freaking video.
Yeah.
Gotta
You're
wear
right.
Jimmy, man.
So we're just going to do this real quickly. I just want to go around the horn and just have each one of you share what you think the equation means. Grumpy, what do you think the equation means?
The PS3 fanboys are going to crucify me for this, but I think it's the 360 version of
What?
There will be a Metal Gear for 360, not necessarily Metal Gear Solid 4. It will be a different version. It might not have Solid Snake. It might be a spin-off or whatever. But I think it doesn't make sense for Konami not to bring this to the 360 in some way, shape, or form.
Is that because of the power logo? It all equals the power logo?
Yeah, I mean, what would really give it away is obviously if it went Red Ring of Death at the very end, then we know it was 360. But I just think that's just my gut reaction. But as everybody knows, I'm not the biggest MGS fan, so I'm probably totally wrong.
Okay. Patrick, what do you think it means?
Well, looking at the graphic, it says I plus exclamation mark equals whatever the hell.
Power
end.
logo,
Yeah,
yeah.
power logo. I think it is going to be Metal Gear Acid on the iPhone.
Really?
Because think back to Metal Gear Solid 4. They did a little product placement with the iPod in there. Plus
Good point.
the exclamation mark. They always use that in the Metal Gear Acid logos. Plus it's green, which
Well,
is...
the question mark is also, the little insignia that pops up over the enemy's heads when they're alerted.
Yeah. So,
Exclamation point.
yeah. And the green, kind of indicative of acid. Just throwing it out there. I don't know.
What about you, Justin?
I don't know.
You usually have
I looked
interesting
at
insights
it,
into
I
things
looked at
like
it.
this.
Yeah, I just looked at it and kind of rolled my eyes. I don't really want to, Kojima screwing with me or whoever is putting out something. It's going to be totally anticlimactic. Or maybe MGS4 is coming to 360. It's all the same to me, but I'll just wait and see. Those guys are nuts, and I watched
Why
the
try to
video
decipher
5 seconds. I was like, whatever. Maybe something cool though. I mean,
Maybe something what?
if it's something cool, I would really like to
Well,
see
I mean,
it.
that studio rarely turns out something that isn't cool.
Box High?
I don't know. I thought Boktai was all right. It was a cool idea.
Yeah.
Brooks, what do you think?
Yeah, my initial thought was that it was coming to 360 in some shape, way, or form. Now I don't know what to think, and it could be something as far off as like a first-person shooter. Who knows?
Yeah.
It could be something totally crazy and away from the whole genre itself.
Yeah, they had those reports of Kojima a while back convening with all the Western developers.
He likes first-person shooter. That's why he kind of
Yeah.
implemented it into MGS4. So
It could also be multiplayer. You know, the big multiplayer game that they've been talking about.
Well, I
for
mean,
such
Metal
a
Gear
long
Online's
time.
been out for a while, and it
But
completely
it could
tanked.
it could be a new version of that, where Metal Gear Online.
That's fun.
Yeah, a Metal Gear MMO for the PS3.
Yeah. Personally, I
Sneak World.
and I don't know anything more than anyone else, so don't read anything into this. But to me, I think it might be Metal Gear for the Wii. So if you
Interesting.
notice, like for all the Wii commercials, it's always the eyes that they emote. Like the two little eyes will bow down, and if you look at instead of looking at it like it's an upside down exclamation point, it's also a lowercase I, as in Wii.
Yeah.
So lots of conspiracy theories going around. It could be anything. I mean, if they were smart,
It's like the blind man and the elephant, huh?
Yeah, right. Well, considering they think that they lost their asses on Metal Gear Solid 4, I think their next game they're probably going to think a little harder about what platform they put it on. And at this point, what better platform is there to release a game on than the Wii? Especially if you make a good game, because there are so few of them. So that's my impression.
Waggle to sneak.
Yeah.
Stick it up your
I'm
ass to
choking
hide
him,
in a
Mom.
cardboard box.
And in all honesty, think about the cool stuff that Kojima would do with the Wii Remote. I mean, he's a very creative guy. He's done really cool stuff with controller ports before. So imagine what he could do with the Wii. I
But
mean,
would they bring it to the Wii and not the 360?
why would they?
Would they bring it? No, would they bring it just to the Wii and not to the 360?
Well, I'm not talking about like a port of Metal Gear Solid 4 for the Wii. I'm talking about a brand new Metal Gear game for the Wii. I do think eventually
Starring a Mii version of Ocelot.
I do think eventually you're going to see Metal Gear on the
Sharpshooting
360.
gallery.
It may be 2 years from now or whatever, but I mean, it would just be stupid of them to not release it for the other platform and make all that money. It's just sitting there waiting to be taken.
Welcome back, Xbox Shane.
That's right. I'm back.
I am thou. Thou art I.
All right, the last game we're going to talk about today, and certainly not least, is Persona 4. Now, does this game actually have the Shin Megami Tensei sort of title to it, or is this just Persona 4?
I think they might have slapped it on there for good measure.
Because, you know, that really resonates with the people.
Well, it resonates with the crazy cult
Shin
following.
Megami Tensei. Can you,
You
see
are-
moms around the world saying that?
SMT.
You actually you may joke, but we actually had an Invisible Walls question asking for a Shin Megami Tensei retrospective this week. It actually came through this week when I was going through the mailbox.
That's a lot of work. So,
Sure, it wasn't Justin.
probably not going to happen.
So 4, though,
yeah, what's up with the 4?
yeah, it's really good. I mean, some of the scores have come out already that's scoring really highly. It's like beating the crap out of all kinds of other genres and games, other big games this year.
But you're the
Because
one
for an
playing it for
RPG,
us.
for a Japanese RPG, it's just really good. The people, they totally know what they're doing. They're comfortable with the engine. I mean, 3 was a really solid game.
Yeah,
I
it was
think we rated
amazing.
really highly. And 4 is just like that. It's a new location. They've switched things up that need to be switched up. They've taken out some of the grindy kind of aspects. You can actually get things done much quicker and more efficiently.
Now, does it
it's a
have
really
have the
good
whole
JRPG.
suicide mechanic?
There's none of that. This time they wear glasses. So.
And explain that to the listeners/viewers how that worked in the last game.
Oh, in the last game, you would summon your persona by putting a gun called an invoker to your head and then pulling the trigger.
Basically,
So
killing
it's-
yourself.
Well, you're separating, your mind or something. You're freeing that
your mind from
alternate
you.
aspect of your personality.
Marcus, I
to
think we
take
did that
over.
on Saturday.
But here they just use
It
cards.
was actually some shotgunning going on, but it wasn't involving weapons. So,
Yeah, Ernest Hemingway had a great persona. But
so you're basically
Kurt Cobain,
freeing
too.
your brain from your skull.
Right.
No,
And
it's-
so how do they explain how
well,
that's
it's a
gone
fake
away?
gun. Here they just have cards, so it's like a tarot card. They kind of had that mechanic in there before, but this time the gimmick is everyone wears glasses so they can see through the fog in the alternate world that's inside the television.
Now,
where
what is the
people are
story behind
mysterious
this?
and
Explain it, because obviously that's a big part of any RPG.
It's in a rural area of Japan, so it's. I mean, even for people who are into the Japanese culture, it's kind of a unique take on it. Not often seen. Usually, it's like the big city stuff or Tokyo and neon. And here, it's like, you go fishing. Your uncle is a detective. You live with him, and a little girl talks in like a kind of strained. You know, I'm a 30-year-old woman doing a little girl voice, but the writing's good.
You can picture it
Oh,
now.
yeah, I'm talking about the whole plot. So
Yeah.
it's a murder mystery in this small town. People keep dying that have appeared on the televisions. They'll find them like dangling from a telephone pole or some high up space, and people are like, that's pretty freaky. So there's this channel called the Midnight Channel. And on a night that's raining, you look at your television at midnight and you can see someone inside the television.
Oh.
And then it'll come to pass that they will die.
It's kind of
Unless you go in there and save them. So it's kind of like a group of people that have this power to use personas get together, and you kind of try to solve the mystery while leveling up your personas, and you have the whole high school life thing in there too, which is actually pretty fun in a sim kind of way.
and
A
it's
little
kind
bit
of
like The Ring, right?
kind of, and it's a little
Nothing comes
interesting
out of
too,
TV to kill
because-
you. People go into the
But whoever
TV.
you see in the TV dies.
Yeah, but The Ring, you see the little girl, and then she crawls out, and you're like, oh god.
It's interesting because don't you actually see TV shows of characters that you beat, and they're kind of based around their lives, and then you kind of
Yeah, there's-
go through that show?
Yeah, you'll see some weird exaggerated version of a person there, and people are actually being trapped by, this side of their personality that they don't want to acknowledge, and it turns into a demon, and you have to fight that demon. But it's a little out there, but it's pretty cool stuff, and it's definitely well done.
I think
There's
the
not-
coolest thing about the Persona games is that they're really unlike any other RPG.
They are
Yeah.
really original games. I mean, they
Really
draw
cool
they
art.
draw on all kinds of world mythology, but yeah, they totally have their own art vibe. The menus are really slick. They just do a good job
they,
with it.
They
know what
succeed
they're
at
doing.
style for sure.
Good stuff.
It is good stuff. Well, maybe the review will be up by now. I don't know. I'm
gonna
trying
be
to
tight.
I'm trying to give it a fair shake. It's a huge game, but we'll get the review out there when we can.
All right. Thank you very much.
Welcome to Not a Dream, Not a Hoax. Princess Yukiko's hunt for her Prince Charming. And I came prepared. I've got my lacy unmentionables on, stacked from top to bottom.
All right. Next is one of our favorite segments and yours, On the Hook, where we answer your ultimate burning questions. And every week I run out of interesting ways to describe this segment. The big question we have this week is from Dakicus. I think that's how you say it. Dakicus.
Kiddickers.
I have no idea. Dukakis. And his or her question is, what do you think the biggest downfall of this gaming generation is? And that while that is terrible English, I think we get the gist of the question. So first we'll go to Grumpy. What do you think the biggest downfall from this generation of consoles is?
I'd have to say over-reliance on gimmicks.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of gimmick-driven software. Unfortunately, it comes back to our pet punching bag, the Wii, which is also one of the best, the best advancements of this gaming generation. But it's also, been one of the biggest disappointments where you have a 3D, you have a remote control controller, or you have a guitar controller, and let's just lob out a crappy game to take advantage of it. And
Stuff like Seen It, where you have the little buzzer controllers,
Lips.
buzz, lips,
yeah.
peripheral-driven games, I guess.
Well, yeah, it's not just peripherals though. I mean, it is gimmicky stuff. I mean, it is just really, some of it is just gimmicky, and obviously because games have become more popular, now we're seeing more and more licensed like Miley Cyrus and High School Musical games and stuff like that, because they're crossing over and people are buying them.
What about you, Morales?
I might get crucified for this, but I have to say sequels, big name sequels, are probably one of the biggest downfalls of this gaming generation. I think, as brand reliance increases, people expecting the next Madden game or the next Call of Duty game, it's kind of putting this pressure on companies to kind of just follow up with the same thing rather than branching out and doing their own thing.
It's a lot of risk too. I mean,
Yeah,
if you're
it-
looking to
it
spend
is a lot of
$50
risk.
million to make a game, and someone's like, well, we can make Gears of War 2, or we could make Mirror's Edge or whatever, this
Well,
brand new concept. What are you going to do if you're the guy who's writing the checks? You're going to make Gears of War 2.
You got to
is
exploit
a lot
those
of risk.
franchises.
when it's your ass on the line for $50 million.
It's conveyor belt gaming.
It is.
That's the problem. It's off the factory production line. I think the problem is that the sequels are now coming every friggin' year.
Well,
They
the
were
problem
coming
is
every
that
2
most of them
years.
are good,
Yeah.
and so people buy them.
To be fair, there are good sequels out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, I mean, until these sequels really start sucking and people quit buying them, unfortunately, that's sort of the cycle that we're stuck in.
But it would be nice to have a sequel perhaps every 2 years as
Right.
opposed to every single year.
Well, Gears waited 2 years. Halo
Call-
waits 3 years.
Call of Duty didn't, and look what happened with World at War.
Is that one of ours?
So, Justin, what about you? What do you think is the biggest downfall of this generation?
I guess I'd try to be somewhat original. I'd just say the cost that it takes to invest in everything and then keep up with it.
The barrier of entry.
I hate to say PS3, but it's a really expensive console.
Yeah, that's
And I admit
$800
I
relatively.
haven't bought one myself because I can play one here. I can borrow one when need be. And to me, honestly, I can't really afford it. And I mean, you also
Let's take
have
a quick poll,
I have a
actually.
360,
Of the five of
have
us
Live.
here, how many people have PS3s?
One.
They can't
Me
see,
and
they can't see
Patrick.
it. I have one.
So actually 3 out of 5, that's pretty impressive.
I know that will shock people. I've had a PS3 for over a year.
I've had mine since launch. And never red ringed, believe it or not. But I agree with you. I mean, then you start talking about
games are
Rock
more
Band and
expensive.
Guitar Hero and
Yeah.
all the peripherals and...
The peripherals are really expensive. I had to buy a new 6-axis controller, and I was just shocked that it was $50+ bucks.
Oh, yeah, it's crazy.
Retarded.
Yep.
At the same time, though, you are getting a lot more nowadays with a system than you were.
Well, think
5
back to the
years ago.
PS2, though. I mean, back then it was a DVD player. It could play video CDs. It could play music. It played PS2 games.
Yeah, but then you
I
have
mean,
like
for
little
its time,
bells
it
and
was
whistles.
just as feature-rich.
I know.
But it was cheaper than what you're paying for the PS3 right now.
Games are, I mean, Left 4 Dead's a great game and I own it, but for what it is, you have to, I mean, sometimes you have to think if you're buying a lot of games and you're paying for your live subscription and, whatever, you have to pick and choose, and it's not fun to have to, pick between great games.
But that's why a big part of how we weight our reviews on our site is value and how much time you get out of a game, whether the multiplayer component is really compelling. Because to me, there are millions of people just like you, Justin, who maybe they bought Left 4 Dead and they've played it for a few days and they're like, I'm done with this game.
I'm going to keep playing it. Especially
but you're going to
get every
force
dollar
yourself
out
to
of
keep
it.
playing it to get your money out of
It is super fun though. Maybe that's a bad example, but I mean, the cost adds up the more titles you buy. I mean, personally, I find myself buying a lot fewer games.
But I'm with you on Left 4 Dead personally. Like, if I would be totally cool renting that and playing it for 4 days, playing the hell out of it for 4 days, and returning it, not going back to it. What about you, Brooks? What's the biggest downfall of this generation?
For me, it's a tie between the unreliability of the Xbox 360 and the red rings and all the disappointment I've had with that because I'm on my second system. I know you're on your fourth or fifth.
Third.
And the Wii's choice to be standard def and to not utilize any kind of HD. For me, I know after the gimmicks and after you get done with it.
Well, it does kind of split the industry as far as development is concerned. You have to kind of pick and choose. Do you want to make the 480p game on the Wii, or do you want to make the HD game? And there's a huge discrepancy in the amount you're going to pay to make each one. Mm-hmm. And for me, the biggest downfall of this generation of consoles is the emergence of the casual gamer. Never thought I'd say this. As much as I love, being able to play, Rock Band with people other than the dudes I usually play games with, when I look at the overall cost-benefit analysis of it, I'd rather just have it me and my dudes playing games and get more games for my taste. I don't like that anybody is diverting resources away from making games I want to play for games that my wife or your girlfriend or whoever wants to play. But it really struck me with Prince of Persia. Like, that game has totally been made for, like, the Wii crowd, the Scene It crowd, the people who play 1 or 2 games a year. They're going to be able to jump on that game. They're going to be able to finish it. They may die, but you're not really punished for dying in that game. And I just feel like that whole game has been set up for this new audience of people. The same people, my wife has some magazine called In Style, and she's, like, flipping through it. I see an ad for the DS in In Style. Like, I see the commercials for Animal Crossing, and they're all like these 30-something-year-old women like talking on the phone going, "Oh my god, I can't believe you got that pair of jeans." Like,
And who we can blame for this is Nintendo.
you're exactly right. It does go back to them. I mean, they're the ones who started this, and granted, it's making them a lot of money, but it's not resulting in a lot of games that I want to play from it. Alright, so that's going to do it for this week's show. Don't forget tonight on Spike TV at midnight, the big VGA premiere episode. These guys are trying to shoot each other with invisible guns.
With a paperclip.
Don't forget the big VGA special tonight on Spike TV at midnight, where we run through all the nominees, and then on Sunday at 9 p.m., no matter where you live, the Spike Video Game Awards for 2008. It's going to be an awesome show. Lots of great games, lots of huge exclusives, so be sure to check it out, and we'll see you next week.